Hello, so today we are here to talk about learner or simplified language learning materials for learning Spanish. I am someone who is not good at using learning materials, somewhat controversially often say that I find them boring, and that is true, but I do also recognize the utility of having simplified content. I personally did start using native content pretty much right away, but I did supplement that with other things, and I continue to do so now, even as, kind of an intermediate advanced learner. So these will all be listed in the description box. We will start with YouTube. Obviously, YouTube is an infinite source. The number one thing, which I did not really use when I was a beginner because I did not know about it at the time, is Dreaming Spanish. This is wildly popular in the language learning community online, and it is really, really great. So this is a YouTube channel, and then they also have a membership program on their website where you can get a lot more content than is on the YouTube channel. Both the free content and the premium content are great. I highly recommend this. I don't necessarily ascribe to their entire philosophy that they have on their website, but I do think that it's absolutely a wonderful resource. The really, really beginner videos, I think they are really, really great for what they are. If you cannot focus on them, then I would try some of the, a little bit more advanced ones, even if that's not, an ideal source, just because they are more interesting. It's just the fact of the matter. Spanish After Hours is a YouTube channel also for comprehensible input, and I love her channel. She's one of the only people who makes comprehensible input videos that I can watch any of them, doesn't matter how simplified they are, so absolutely recommend her videos. Then two channels that are not actually really that easy, but the first one being Easy Spanish, which is a little bit of a misnomer because it's intermediate, I would say. There are target language and English subtitles on the videos, which I wish that they didn't do, but you can either try not to look at the English subtitles or cover them up. Regardless, I do think they have really, really great videos. They are just a little bit more difficult than maybe they purport to be in the title. Primarily street interviews, so themed videos talking to people about a particular subject, like how many languages do you speak and where did you learn them, or what do you think about this issue, etc. And then the final one that I have to recommend is Mr. Salas, which this is actually a native Spanish YouTuber, so again, a lot more of an advanced thing, but he is really easy to understand comparatively to most native Spanish YouTubers. YouTube channel aimed at Spanish speakers learning other languages, and so if you're kind of comfortable on that topic, it's a lot more comprehensible than it would be otherwise, because you're hearing videos about the same topic all the time, and it's a topic that presumably you're interested in. Then podcasts. Again, podcasts tend to be easier to have for intermediate and up, but there are some good beginner ones. I really like the podcasts from Babbel, actually. The one that I listened to the most is called Palabras Bravas, but they do have Slow News, I think, and some other ones in Spanish. Most of them are fully in Spanish, but there are some, I think, that are English and Spanish. The Duolingo Spanish podcast is also a pretty good one, but it does have a lot of English in it as well. Again, once you're getting a little bit more advanced, there is an Easy Spanish podcast and a podcast called Hoy Hablamos, which is pretty intermediate, I would say, that also just talks about topics. You can also search for podcasts that tell fairy tales or stories for children. There was one that I used to listen to called Spanish Stories for Kids, and this one I did find it, again, really difficult at the time because I was a beginner, so I would kind of off and on try to listen to it again until it became a little bit more easy for me to listen to. But again, if it's stories or topics that you're really familiar with, it's going to be a lot easier to follow. So things like fairy tales, where you're comfortable with the story, can be a really good place to start. Stories or articles that you can read online. My number one recommendation, again, going back to fairy tales and comfortable stories, is thespanishexperiment.com so thespanishexperiment.com is free. They do have a kind of premium site called The Fable Cottage, where they are continuously producing additional stories, and that one is a paid membership. But this has really, really good audio, and some of them have video as well, I think, along with a transcript and a translation of the story. so that you can really, listen to it, read it, make sure you understand it and everything. And so this was great. I use this for Spanish. I am using it for French. I really, really like this site. I really want them to add Portuguese to the Fable Cottage. The majority of them are fairy tales or kind of popular children's stories, but they do have some original stories as well. Then there is a site. So in Spanish, the site or story is called Pimiento y Zanahoria. And so this is a webcomic type thing that has been translated into so many languages, and it is translated into Spanish, and you can also read it in English, or likely whatever your native language is potentially has been translated into that. So this is another opportunity for you to use, the English translation to make it more comprehensible, even if it's a little bit above your level where it is. I have talked before about the app Newsela, which is built for promoting literacy, I think, in children, in schools, and so it does have primarily English articles, but it also has Spanish articles, and you can change the complexity level of the article, so you can make the same article more or less complex language, and so it can be really, really helpful to read. And they do have a fair amount of articles, like they put them out regularly. I use this a lot, probably dozens and dozens of articles read on this. Then other than that, I would highly recommend looking at government websites. I will have some linked below. There are websites that have readers for schools or for adults who are going back and getting their diplomas or whatever, all kinds of different resources to help people learn to read, to help children learn things. There's I think De Veras is a magazine put out by the Mexican government for children that's available for free online. There's all kinds of different resources that governments put out. Again, I'll have some linked below, but there are tons, and if you have a specific dialect that you are looking to learn, I would certainly look for things from that specific country. If you spent any time on the channel, you will know how much I love graphic novels. So certainly I think any graphic novel that you've ever read before is a great choice because, again, you're familiar with the story. I got these on Amazon a really long time ago when I had a gift card, but these are just little tiny comic things. So this is by Stone Arch Books, but I have Cinderella and the Beauty and the Beast. These weren't that easy to read at the time, for sure, but there's not very many words on the page, so it wasn't that overwhelming to look up. Then finally, Netflix or Disney Plus, absolutely, again, if you've watched something in another language before and you're really comfortable with the story, watch it dubbed in Spanish, 100%. One of my favorites is Hilda, but I've also rewatched dozens of Disney movies dubbed in Spanish, some of them many, many times. It is just such a great way to get good input, and now the Disney dubs and the Netflix original dubs are actually really good. I always used to think of dubbing as really kind of tacky voices, I don't want to be insulting to old dubbing industry, but it is much better now. And if it's an animated thing, the mouth not matching doesn't bother me nearly as much as it does for live action things, even though I will watch live action things dubbed too, but I much prefer to watch animated things dubbed. I am considering making a video specifically of Netflix kids shows or animated things that don't suck for language learning, so if you'd be interested in that, let me know. So I think that's everything I have for right now. If you have things to share, feel free to in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.